Bas relief and high relief, incised lines and elements in the round. Bill Mack is regarded as the finest relief sculptor in the world today. Reinventing an ancient art form using modern materials and innovative techniques, Bill Mack has single-handedly pioneered a relief sculpture renaissance. The three-dimensional elements in relief engage the audience in a way that two-dimensional art cannot. Also, unlike typical three-dimensional works, relief involves a fine balance of foreshortened dimensions and distortion, and is thus more complex than sculpture in the round. Since artworks created in relief are different than full round works in both dimension and application, and are clearly different than flat art, many art historians regard relief as the third art form. Mack's art is an illusion that gathers its own light and casts its own shadows, creating a stunningly real portrayal of each of his romantic subjects in a sculptural form that is light enough to be displayed on the wall. So strikingly lifelike are these artworks, the viewer becomes an active participant, able to interact with the art and the space that it occupies.
Work in relief requires an intricate balance of shortened dimension and distortion, which, when accomplished correctly, achieves an effect that could not occur in two-dimensional art. It is also immensely more complex than sculpture in the round. In Bill Mack's work, relief sculpture is an orchestration of light-gathering, shadow-casting magnificence that seems to capture and radiate life and energy better than any other form. Yet the sculpture of Bill Mack is startlingly real. But if you reach out and touch it, you discover a secret, because nothing is as it seems.
My relief, by being so dimensional, and this is important, it casts its own natural shadows. I'm not defining my relief by incising lines. In Picasso, as an example, I've set the plane of the relief, then I've carved into it, and I've sculptured Picasso in varying levels of relief through his hand, which becomes full round, going off the edge of the piece. And in the background, I've incised Picasso's own image of himself, the famous self-portrait that he's done. So you've got virtually every conceivable level of relief sculpture in that one piece.
Such virtuoso techniques can produce acts of exquisite deception.
The illusion comes right off the bottom of the piece, maybe 12 inches deep at that point, but if I had taken a full round girl and set her on the wall, she may come off the piece 3.5 feet.
And this is where the art of Bill Mack is about to meet science and technology. The clay sculpture, magnificent as it may be, in fact only serves as a form from which to make a pliant mold, a precise likeness in detail, but in reverse dimensions.
The original sculpture is destroyed in the procedure. The resulting artworks made from my mold are all of equal value. My relief sculptures are not afterpieces. Unlike a print, which is often a copy of an original painting, they're all made by hand in the form they were ultimately intended to be presented. Originally, when I set out to do this project, we wanted to do large reliefs, and I realized there were a couple of considerations. One was that I wanted the material I used to be light enough to hang on a wall. I needed to be strong enough so I could have these protruding fragile parts, and then I wanted the surface to have an elegant texture.
In his mind's eye, Bill could see some of these bonded sand pieces in a different finish.
I looked at them and I immediately recognized that they'd look excellent in bronze, but it's so impractical. I mean, the weight would have to exceed certainly over 100 pounds, conceivably even heavier than that. I developed my way of cold casting bronze, or I call it bonded bronze. I impregnate a resin with a bronze particle. The weight of the bronze migrates to the surface, and once we've sandblasted that surface and exposed the bronze particle, it can be polished and etched and finally patinaed with the same chemicals you'd work with if the bronze had been cast in a more typical kind of foundry operation. As a sculptor, I've always done full round work. With relief sculpture, a lot of times I'll create a maquette, a small model, a small full round version basically from the photo reference that I'm working with to work from in relief. I did a sculpture for Harley Davidson of a rider sitting on a motorcycle, sort of relaxing in the middle of the afternoon. The original sculpture was unveiled up in Aspen, and since we've made 2 additional castings of it. It's probably one of the most complex bronze sculptures that you'll see anywhere. But it's probably about 1,000 pounds of bronze, and what appears to be several hundred bike parts is made out of 60 molds.
As reference has been made to world-renowned artist Bill Mack, who hails from the great state of Minnesota, he was commissioned by the Twins and the Minnesota Ballpark Authority to pay tribute to the Twins, who are in the National Baseball Hall of Fame.
They unveiled a couple of statues, the first of 3 for Twins greats. Rod Carew was the Rookie of the Year for the Twins in 1967. He won 7 batting titles and was elected into the Baseball Hall of Fame. This statue was sculpted by Minnesota artist Bill Mack.
This work by Mr. Mack commemorates the latest Twins Hall of Famer. Today we celebrate one of the most glorious days in the franchise's history, and it makes all of us happy to take this moment on this day to unveil Kirby Puckett's statue.
This is just overwhelming for me to be standing beside this statue.
Bill Mack's extraordinary art speaks many languages and hangs in private collections and galleries worldwide. The success of his international exhibits have been overwhelming.
The Gala Tokyo opening of American sculptor Bill Mack was a celebrity-filled event unlike any other show of Western art ever held in Japan. The incredibly large turnout gave this event the feel of a one-man cultural exchange mission. Wearing his trademark rose, the world's foremost relief sculptor has again proven that a picture is worth 1,000 words, in English or Japanese. In any language, Bill Mack was a hit.
A Michelangelo from Minneapolis is the darling of Robert Redford, Sylvester Stallone, Elizabeth Taylor, Ronald Reagan, and Tony Curtis. Each has paid megabucks for a little relief from a sculptor whose work is hot and collectible. He's Bill Mack, recreator of unique 2-dimensional reliefs that date back to the beginning of time. Bill resurrected a 16,000-year-old technique seen on such ancient structures as the Parthenon. He cleverly updated the ancient form with 20th century materials. That winning combination helped him carve his own multi-million-dollar niche in the art world. When he's not working, Bill is collecting showbiz memorabilia. His amazing display spans such top-dollar items as the furniture used in Marilyn Monroe's last photo shoot. Add 2,000 signed photos and letters from everyone who's been anyone, from Honest Abe to Elvis.
I could never retire from this. This is my life, and this will always be my life.
How'd you get so rich? Everywhere I look in this house, there's something so unusual. You're a major collector.
Yeah, this piece right here could go in any museum in the world. The largest pool table in the whole world.
What's the most expensive thing in this room?
Probably these Bill Mack pieces up here. Those are $100,000 a piece.
Did you ever have a blind friend over who thought he was...
I love you ladies. You love me back. And then I just be going like this. I need to see you and feel you next to me.
I'm Wayne Newton. Come on into our crib. In this room, this is where it all happens. Just so you don't wonder anymore, each one of these was a gift from my wife.
Hooray for Hollywood! You have no way of knowing who'll make good.
It was built on the hill to promote a housing development in 1923. But the Hollywood sign quickly became an icon and stood above the valley for more than 50 years before it was replaced by a new structure in 1978. Amazingly, the contractor who tore down the old sign put the wreckage into storage until he connected with Minnesota artist Bill Mack.
And I get this phone call about somebody said, well, how would you like to own the Hollywood sign? I'm a collector of rare, unusual things, a lot of Hollywood.
2 years after agreeing to buy the old Hollywood sign, Bill Mack had a vision.
I mean, there's absolutely nothing that relates to that industry that could be more important than this metal.
So inside Bill Mack's extraordinary studios called Camelot, not far from a freeway in Bloomington, Minnesota, are stacks of scruffy old tin panels covered in old paint and rust.
It's so amazing. We get this metal, now we got to figure out how to do this.
After flattening the flimsy metal plates out on an ancient press and gluing down the old paint,
I want to keep as much of the original paint on there as possible.
The artist decided, just for fun, to paint a picture of movie star Jean Harlow on one of the panels and send it to a dealer.
By the time I got to the gallery, they already had it sold. And they sold it for like 80-some thousand.
Bill Mack is an established artist whose signature works are low-relief sculptures that seem to overflow. But he also paints, creates montages and sculpts complete figures like these baseball icons for the Twins Stadium in Minneapolis. He's known all over the world for his art. His creations have always been eye-catching and immensely popular, but nothing has attracted buyers like his Hollywood sign paintings.
Hooray for Hollywood! That screwy ballyhooey Hollywood, where any office boy
That's real. That came from a lock of hair that I've owned for years.
Bill Mack is an artist with a big vision. He plans on rebuilding and painting the original H from the Hollywood sign. It'll be nearly 50 feet tall.
Where Eric Trauner was the art director, and he built a French street at Universal on a set. And he foreshortened the perspective so that within a, let's say, 100-foot distance, he had a perspective that looked like 500 or 600 feet. So your sculpture is not unlike that. Right. Now, do you mathematically or figure out the foreshortening, or do you let your eye tell you?
It's it's my eye. It's a matter of confidence. I think a lot of people that are capable sculptors can work comfortably in relief, but don't because they see that difficulty immediately and walk away from it. It's just a matter of working with it. I mean, visually, I have to make it so visually it looks good to you. I've actually worn a rose every day for several years now. The reason I first decided to wear a rose is a personal thing. I've kept it personal and private. I also like the fact that people do respond well to me when I wear the rose. And in some ways, it's become some sort of a signature or a trademark for Bill Mack. We dedicated a 25,000-foot building. The building was built in the 60s and called Camelot. It's a very authentic-looking castle-like building. We have our offices and showroom there, but we have the facility that produces the artwork. We do everything in our foundry. It's a cold cast foundry, and we do our own framing.
To Bill Mack, detail is everything. Having conquered the immense technical problems of creating relief sculpture that can be hung on the wall, Bill Mack's ability to create life and energy in his art is truly unique. The final works emerge as stunning examples of the interplay of form and materials. Bill Mack unquestionably is the maestro.